Hello everybody and welcome to the British Pint. My name is Christoph and today we are brewing an English IPA with my own recipe, which is rare. I'm not doing a clone today, but I thought I would do something nice. The Tango hop that is growing in my garden, it's a modern German variety that is about to be ready. It's a very late hop, so you get some forecast from the Bavarian, government, kind of, local government about when the varieties are going to be ready for harvest, and it is usually very accurate to where I'm living as well, which is a bit further away from Bavaria, and so I'm looking forward to harvesting it. I'm going to brew today and harvest in 2 days, which is the closest to the official harvest date I can get before I go on a short holiday. So my thought was that I'm going to use lots of normal hops today and then add the harvested hop, not really as a dry hop, but I'm going to do dip hopping, which means I put it in hot water, like in a quasi-whirlpool condition, and then afterwards I'm going to add it to the fermentation so that the effect of the whirlpool hopping is there, but you have less of the aromas being driven out by CO2, if you get my meaning. So that's going to be interesting. That's what I'm going to do, just because I want to have something a bit more sterile or a bit cleaner than actual fresh hops in the beer without boiling them. That is always a bit of a hygiene risk. Today is going to be an English IPA with added German Tango to it. I'm not an enemy of German hops in an English beer. It's something that has been done for 200 years. They loved using Bavarian Hallertauer and Czech Saaz in their beers. The only problem was it was expensive, so they tended to use English hops more often. So what are we going to do? We're going to use mostly just pale malt. This is Golden Promise, the one that I really like. And then I added some crystal malt that is freshly crushed, some pale crystal malt from Thomas Fawcett's 80 EBC. This is basically what makes this an English IPA. They use a bit more crystal malt, or they use definitely always crystal malt, and I'm going to go with a pale one because I really like the complexity and the aroma that this gives. I once did a brew with that with lots of crystal malt, and it smelled so intensely that you thought there would be aroma hopping in it. Just dried fruits, caramel, lots of nice flavors. And so this is going to boost the overall appearance of this beer. Also, it's going to have a significant yeast profile. I'm going to use Thames Valley Wyeast 1275. This is a bit older than I would like. I smacked it yesterday and it inflated, so that's a good sign, but it might have trouble starting, so we'll see about that. The last beer that I brewed with dry yeast, that was the Mann's Brown Ale clone, that started within 8 hours. It's going to be longer than that, up to 24 I would say. I hope not longer. So that would pretty much set. So I'm going to use 5% of pale crystal malt, and the rest is pale malt. I'm going to Burtonize the hell out of my water. I'm going to get to 360 ppm sulfate, and I'm also going to put quite a lot of lactic acid in it to get the hydrogen carbonate down to almost zero. It works with the beer pH because most of this is pale malt, so it doesn't drop too low. But it might be that I will taste the lactate. This is something I've never tested, to use very large amounts, well, not very large amounts, but larger amounts than recommended, because you never know how much lactic acid the yeast is going to produce, and that is the critical factor. It might be up to 3 times as much as you can add to your water, and therefore, in the end, it might be noticeable or not. We'll see. Depends on the yeast strain as well, so it's not really easily predictable. Yeah, so that was the water. I'm going to mash in. I used to do 4 liters of mash liquor per kilogram. Now I'm doing 3 liters because I got one of these sparging aids, the ring, the spiral, and I noticed things are much easier to sparge and also either more efficient, or I get some channeling because the gravity of the liquor that comes out of the tap drops much faster now. So we'll see how that goes. And then I told you of the yeast. So I'm going to ferment this how the weather is at the moment, which is 22 degrees Celsius constantly. And because I'm going to do a large amount, so I multiply everything by 3 kilograms of malt, 9 liters of mash liquor, 9 to 12 liters of sparge liquor. I'm going to see how much I actually need instead of just using a fixed amount this time. So I'm not sure when this one does fusel, but it might be a bit too warm then. So I guess fermentation temperature might go up to 24 degrees. I'm hoping that the low vitality of this one means low pitching rate, so then everything's a bit slower and doesn't overshoot temperature-wise. That's pretty much it then. Okay, so I'm going to harvest the Tango, might show you some pictures of that. We'll see about that. And then that's pretty much it. Anything else you need to know? Bases. Oh, of course. I'm going to use up all the Goldings I have. I have quite a lot of Goldings left over. I might use some bitter hopping for the bitterness, because the English IPA, I want to go to 50, 60 IBU, something like that, around 13, 14 degree Plato. I'm just going to casually put everything in and check my gravities in the end and see what I get. And I expect something between 10 to 12 liters of final beer. And Admiral is the bitter hop variety that I might use. I hope by the time I edit this video I will remember everything I did today and then write it all down here very nicely. Maybe that's what happened. Alright, and then we see each other for the tasting, which will be at the end of this video, and in between you'll see nice clips of what I did here. See you then, and bye bye. So we're back here with the finished product. It's a really nice beer. I got it quite clear. This was in the fridge at 4 degrees, still really clear. And as usual, I'm very happy with my 60-degree protein rest, which I did again for this beer. Just a quick heads up on the recipe. I did change that during the brew day. So I did a smash just with Tango, the hop variety that I grow in my garden. I used up all my hops from last year. Those were dried and frozen. And then I used quite a lot of green hop from this year. And because my hop harvest was 2 days after the brew day, I did a hot steep, which is not exactly the same as dip hopping. Dip hopping is leaving the hops in the fermenter. I just did a hot steep where I extracted all the good stuff from the hops with boiling water, added the liquid into the fermenter 2 days after fermentation started, and that is what we have here. So last year I did a green hop beer where I added the hops into the whirlpool. Same amount for the same amount of beer, but the whirlpool was at 70 degrees and I let it sit for an hour and I got a really strong, good aroma, but a peppery, sharp hopness that I didn't really like. So this year I went for boiling water just because I want to have it really sanitized. There were quite a few bugs crawling around on my hops this year. And so boiling water and then just let it sit for 50 minutes. So I'm hoping to have a bit fresher notes. But I already tried this beer 4 weeks after I bottled it with my homebrew club. And I noticed that it is not as cleanly citrusy and grapefruity as last year. It is far more complex. So it was very difficult to judge it, especially when comparing it with the yeast that I used. So I got quite a lot of red apple. I couldn't decide, was it the hop, was it the yeast? Very complex character. Also the crystal that I used, the pale crystal, 5%, that was going in the mix. So I wanted to let it sit a bit more and see how it is now. Of course, it is 6 weeks later now, so 10 weeks in total. This is not as fresh as I would like to have. I was a bit ill during the weekends. This happens every year when my daughter goes to kindergarten and it's autumn and it's just nasty. So I carbonated this. Oh, the smell. Oh, lovely. Yeah, that's red apple. I think that's the yeast. The carbonation is higher than usual because in a hoppy beer you need a lot of CO2 that brings the aromas to your nose. So without CO2, many of the hop compounds do not get pushed out of solution. Nicely foam stable. It's really crystal clear. There's a very slight haze in there, which could be from the hopping, or a bit of chill haze left. Lovely golden color, really bright. Not straw, which is the color I don't like because it's indicating Pilsen malt. This is pale malt with 5% pale crystal, and it's just lovely golden. Amazing. Okay. Yeah, the aroma is still very similar to what I had 6 weeks ago. It is quite an interesting mix. So what do we have here? We have red apple, and I think it's two different kinds of red apple I'm smelling. I'm smelling this heavy one that is like baked apple. That is, I think, coming from the yeast. And the other one is something that was very light last year, which is prominent this year, which could be due to climate and everything outside. It's a bit more grassy, that's why I say it's hoppy. And that is just a light cidery note, but not in the sense of something that is oddly fermented, which you can get from some yeasts, sometimes also the Fuller's yeast, for example. No, this is really just a fresh apple note. Maybe a bit of pear. Maybe it's pear that I'm trying to say. So it might be that the hoppiness is more pear and the yeast is more apple. And they combine really well. And I think some of that not dark crystal, some of that pale crystal, which is also sometimes red apple, more like dried fruits, raisins, all this stuff. But it might be in there and mixing very well. So it's a very intense, almost Christmassy baked apple feeling. There's lots of honey going on as well. So some floral honey. Yeah, the smell is amazing, but it's really not what I wanted. I wanted something citrusy, classic IPA, which I got last year from the same hop. So that's quite interesting. This is so rounded now. Absolutely no unpleasant bitterness. It might come a few seconds later. This is really far away from the astringent hop burn stuff that you can sometimes get in some beers. It is by far not as strong in the flavor as I would like, because you want in an IPA, I wanted to have this to be an IPA, you want something that's really overpowering. Something that's a bit typical is that this tastes less intense than it smells. And that is usually when you overdo it with dry hopping or whirlpool. And it depends on the variety, because some varieties, when you put them in the whirlpool, they also give flavor and aroma. Some already start in the whirlpool to only give aroma. And then when you go for dry hopping or only dry hopping, you can shift that even more to only aroma. So with Tango, it seems like you need also some components in the last 10 minutes. And the problem with Tango is, which is not that negative, like East Kent Golding, it acts very differently depending on when you add it. So in 10 minutes to the boil, it's just a bit grassy, almost like a noble German hop, herbal, spicy, and of course you would need different aroma hops than that you would add in the last 10 minutes to give you more flavor. So to use this in IPA is actually, in my opinion, quite difficult. Yeah, the malt backbone is really good, very sweet, malty, biscuity, really nice. But I have to say that in flavor, I do not notice enough of the hops for me to be a great IPA. It's really nice, it's very drinkable. Because I diluted it with the boiled water extract, steep extract from the hops, it only got some 4.x% ABVs. You can find the data on the site usually. That's where I put it. And because the battery of my camera is running low, I think I will finish the video here. Really nice recipe, but not perfect for an IPA because of the hop variety. This is basically down to how you combine hops if you use several different ones, and I would recommend you to do that. Maybe Calista would be a really nice addition, or maybe something like Citra as a backbone. Alright, so I see you next time. Not sure what video that will be. I didn't record my last brew. That was a Burton Ale that we will bring to the homebrew convention in Germany. Didn't record the video. I'm really busy at the moment. It's going towards Christmas. Who knows when I'm going to edit this video, so we'll just see each other next time. Bye bye.